kept the CBI program into his and onto his portfolio, whereas seemingly, the fair share, which I kept saying was the only issue in this campaign, fair share, he probably would be able to energize it to the point where he will sit down with our representatives of Nevis and hammer out something that is fair to St. Kitts and fair to Nevis. We must face harsh reality that the time has come for Nevis to get its fair share. I will move on a little to say that Dr. Denzel Douglas has been given the foreign ministry, except he is not in charge of the fair share CBI program, the cash cow of St. Kitts Nevis. Praise the Lord. I do not know if I should again repeat praise the Lord, but at least he, Dr. Denzel Douglas, would not have any jurisdictional authority over the sharing of the CBI money from which we campaigned on very vigorously. And I kept saying that is the only issue in the campaign. But of course, the CCM of Nevis, the concerned citizens of Nevis, concerned citizen party, which the Honorable Mark Brantley heads, had to mention other issues just to make the thing campaign trail exciting and to keep the listeners abreast and in tune and attached to the dissertation as they went on the campaign trail. Webbo.
Mr. Stanley, do you think the fair share would be a significant issue in the local election? Do you think that would carry on to the local election? Because you've been saying that's the only issue that was in the election, which I think I don't think so. It was the only issue from the CCM platform. Other parties had other issues, but do you think that would carry on to the local election?
Evidently it would, Naya. If we were to get our money, our fair share, the Honorable Mark Brantley and his team, the Honorable Eric Evelyn and the Honorable Alexis Jeffers, they got plenty of work to do. Massive expenditures in Nevis. And we can't stop at this juncture in terms of spending and transforming Nevis. And the transformation of Nevis has just begun. Let me just repeat that.
So are you saying Nevis is on hold until we get the fair share?
No, not necessarily. The people who are in there, they just have plenty of work to do. In the interim, until everything, the dust settles, they have to carry on the affairs, administrative affairs, governmental affairs of Nevis. But the money is critically important. And that cash cow, once we get our fair share, you will begin to see a massive transformation of Nevis, galloping not only from the standpoint of road rehabilitation, but the finishing of the hospital, the finishing of the Mondo track in terms of the covering and probably the maintenance of the Mundle track. The Malcolm Gichard Park that is not completed to its nth degree. Still that has a few little things to be done. Maintenance, of course. Landscaping is always there to be done. And that is part of the maintenance program for Nevis at the Malcolm Gichard Park. Plus the other areas, security, education.
Do you ever think about the possibility of not getting a fair share? But don't you think the fair share idea with the new administration still hang within gloominess?
No.
No?
Not at all.
Okay. I'm not saying it is. I
Minister.
believe that it's the opportunity. The present situation provides a good opportunity to have meaningful discussion about the so-called fair share.
So-called?
Yeah. Because that's what we term it.
Get on board now. Get real. Get on board, please. Continue.
I prefer you not say that.
Continue.
Because I'm on board, I may not be in the same ship with you or anybody else. I've got a ship myself, as you know, I build boats. But the fair share, that's what we term it. So, and that's why I say the so-called, because to me, it involves more than money, and a lot of people think the fair share is only about money. Okay, so I probably have an extended idea of the fair share. Okay, so when I say it's an appropriate time, I think good time to negotiate on behalf of Nevis, which is basically I'm thinking about the more equitable distribution of what is federal. Okay, and that goes beyond the fair share. Now, the fair share, the money cow, as you call it, can lose its energy.
How?
We're not in this by ourselves. We are in a global community. The passport money can seriously be affected by world events, and even the illegal or random use of our passport by the wrong people. It can be impacted. You make it sound like we have just discovered oil. No,
it is.
And there is an unlimited supply. No, it's not like that with the passport money, sir. And don't you think that way, because it can be an illusion eventually that we lean so much on it, and it's drying up, and it has dried up. Now, more insight into it probably is necessary, but I think it becomes gloomy, yes, because remember, we are not really sitting in the government right now, but we are sitting in the opposition. Okay, so it's not that we will deliver it unto ourselves, but it is to be delivered to us, and that's the difference. Negotiation can start afresh, and a new arrangement can be made, and so to carry it over would be sometimes, I think, I struggle to find the right word, but can't we just start afresh on the matter of equitable shares between both islands, than to actually move with something that we put on the table, which really, during the exercise of the election, proved that it brings some divisiveness, and it didn't reap what we wanted it to reap in the election. Because Pam were talking about it, and you see what happened to Pam. Right, over here, the opposition party gained grounds. So I'm wondering if an alteration, or seeing that it will be new negotiation, maybe we should try to suppress that feelings that derive, that emotion that derives from this fair share, which a lot of people does not really understand, and deal with the concept of a more equitable distribution of what is federal.
Please do not change the label. President Biden this evening just signed a mammoth bill, and he's asking for the corporations to pay their fair share. So the word fair share, or the slogan fair share, was injected, amplified, and quantified by the Honorable Mark Brantley in our local or national consciousness.
Okay.
But it's not a new terminology, and therefore it must be understood that fair share has been around for quite some time.
Okay.
The Honorable Mark Brantley may have just
Yes. I
amplified
understand.
it to the point where it has now become part of our consciousness, to the extent where everybody should be speaking and talking, elaborating, and ultimately coming behind the issue of fair share. The fair share of taxes.
Well, everybody didn't come behind it. Look, that did not work well across the narrows. Are you aware of that in the election?
I would
Are
not.
you aware that the fair share idea, Pam, in their meeting stating the whole issue of and what they would do? You know that across the waters, that didn't work well with the populace. Are you aware of that? The idea of fair share. Basically, to put it in a nutshell, and I don't want it to sound so harsh, that the Kittitians then vote against the idea of fair share by didn't vote for Labour. Pam get the worst licks, get the most licks. They have communicated that to us. Okay? In such ways. And we must understand that. Whereas it worked over here, and we know why it worked, because this is not a new thing for us. We hope it will go away, but it's not a new thing. So it works over here, but it did not work in St. Kitts. It's a new administration. And so we probably need to think about a different approach, or some kind of something working differently, in a sense, because the political party that runs the government in St. Kitts, the federal government, was put there by people who thinks that this idea of fair share, Nevis people want too much money, I want all our money. That was the message
You buy that?
sent to us.
You buy that?
What was the message sent to us by the electorate of St. Kitts?
What I'm saying to
Mr.
you
Stanley,
is that
what
the
was the
Honorable
message sent to us?
Terence Drew, the Prime Minister,
Yeah.
has now brought it to the front, onto the front burner,
Yeah.
and he has decided that is maybe not the first order of business, but for sure that fair share caused a stumble in the continuation or the continuity of an administration that had an enormous amount of power, economic, social, political, but it evaporated almost overnight. simply because he, the former Prime Minister, the Honorable Timothy Harris, did not organize his people or train his people or lead his people into understanding that we are a partner in this two islands, one country, one nation. As a result, he failed miserably, and the continuation of his administration faltered and failed at this particular juncture on August 5th. Had he spoon-fed those people who don't want to accept, although they know that we are entitled to our fair share, because of his failure to spoon-feed his followers, and more so, to sink its masses to understand that in the partnership of Federal-Nevis, fair share was not a foreign quotation, and therefore the people are still attempting to drag that into the fray and to giving you, Naya, and other people the impression that that was an issue that Sinkit's people have not come to embrace, whereas they should embrace it.
Well, the electorate that came out in great numbers did not vote for the party that was promulgating the fair share matter for Nevis. It's simply that. And that's why I said the message was clear to us over here. But I want to move on, because, if you don't mind, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about the opposition now, and wondering about if we are expecting a functional opposition, like a good opposition.
Before you move on,
yes.
Let me again reiterate that the Honorable Prime Minister, Terence Drew, has decided to keep that within his own ministry.
Yes.
And to have a meaningful conversation, a substantive conversation with not only the people of St. Kitts, but also the representatives of Nevis, which includes the Premier, Mark Brantley. And therefore, it tells me that he is the paymaster of the CBI money, and he has reiterated that he wants, when the dust settles with this issue, St. Kitts and Nevis are both happy with the end results. So, to be honest,
but that certainly should be the objective. Everyone is willing to.
He doesn't want to have the same
to get on with
fiasco
this matter
that occurred, that brought down the last government.
Of course not.
And therefore, he has to avoid that pitfall at all costs. And consequently, he has stated categorically that he would bring to the table the two parties, St. Kitts and Nevis, and to discuss the fair share. Now, if he fails, clause 113, although I'm not ready to go there, but that would be a stumbling block, a hiccup in the continuity of his administration, if Nevis were to evoke Clause 113, where it becomes effective enough and threaten the stability of his administration and government. No leader wants any kind of discontinuation of an administration, especially over something that they could have managed, controlled, and ultimately directed. So, in that regard, I am saying to you and to the listening audience, we must do what is possible to have a government with the continuity that is expected of good governance.
Okay, Mr. Starley. Yes, I would say, Mr. Starley, that I was here thinking about the opposition and who comprises the opposition, the federal opposition. And are we to expect a functional opposition, or that type of opposition that would be just enough, you know, to represent that aspect of our democracy, because we are still really depending on good relationship with the government in power, so we can be paid or we can get our fair share. It looks to me like here is a bit of a kind of awkward situation, you know, for the opposition. Mainly so the Nevisian representatives, you know. We know Mark has always been quite a lively opposition member from he started and up to 2015 when they got rid of Prime Minister Denzel Douglas. I'm wondering about his tone this time, and that's why I'm talking about it. Now, this is not in any way a provoking statement, you know, but just thinking if he would be himself in opposition as he usually is, or he would be just for doing that role because of our democratic process, but at the same time more trying to establish and pursue good relationship with the existing party in power. Do you understand where my mind is at?
A tiger remains a tiger, and it will devour you at any moment. In this regard, I would tell you, the Honorable Mark Grantley did a fantastic job while he was in opposition, and he did a better job while he was in government.
So you think he's going to do a good job?
That is in his DNA.
Great. Well, I think he can do a good job. But don't you see, to a certain extent, his hands are tied?
Tied how?
It's a question I'm asking you.
The point is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out when something has gone wrong or is going down the wrong road. And therefore, he is always lazily focused with his team.
I truly don't underestimate Mark. I know Mark have great capabilities in terms of, you know, being functional in the opposition and other places in government, for sure, you know. But here is a situation that seems to be worthy of discussing, whether or not he would be that sharp, searching, good opposition we know him to be, or he would be less so in order to foster good relationship with the administration? Because you're in the opposition, you're rooting to get the administration up, but that's the same administration you're trying to get along with.
They should not be offended when someone points out their folly. And in that regard,
Do you know politics? You know how politics is played around here, Mr.
yes,
Stanley. It's not
I
going to
understand
change.
it very well. And you have follies, and they are pointed out often enough. You operate at your own peril. And as an administration, who is governing the governed must be lazily focused. Else, if you are not prioritizing to the best of your ability for the people, of the people and by the people, ultimately you would be thrown on the trash heap of history. No one wants the administration to run aground. And consequently, they would remain lazily focused, or should remain lazily focused, to good policies executed wisely and timely, and hence you will always be there. And even though the opposition is lazily focused to point out your follies, or point out your mistakes, it doesn't mean that it would be as effective as the government remaining lazily focused to serve the people that have elected them. Therefore, I would recommend to Dr. Drew to do all in his power, which he has an enormous amount of power given by the electorate in the last election. And if you do good, good will always follow you. And those who are treated well in the goodness of your dispensation will not forget you.
Good. Can we now move on to the local election, if you don't mind?
Go ahead.
It's due by March, I was told, of 2023.
It makes no difference. Everybody must.
Or February.
Everybody must sleep on their knees. All right?
Yeah.
Meaning, it's a term from primary school. Sleep on your knees.
What does that mean?
Meaning that you must be ready.
Oh.
You
So
must
what
be ready.
do you think a immediate or early call-in would serve the local administration best?
There is no need for an early calling. The reason why there shouldn't be a need for an early calling, I think those guys have done very, very well, or exceptionally well, in terms of the governance of the people of Nevis. The programs that they have initiated. And Mark is always looking out for his people, or for all the people.
We realize, Mr. Stanley, that the turnout in Nevis for the federal was very low.
Well,
Do you expect a bigger turnout in this local election?
I expect people to go out and vote, and a win is a win. I can't tell you what turns off people, but we have the overseas voters. I mean, they came and they stayed after Culturama, and voted. And that is a plus. Now, however you want to put it, people are still interested in both elections, federal and local. It is believed that people are more interested, or Nevis people are more interested in the local election than the federal election.
Obviously, yes, they are.
But bringing the two islands together, St. Kitts people have one election every 5 years or thereabout. And they would come out in the numbers. I can't tell you what the percentile amount was in this last federal dispensation.
I mean, in St. Kitts?
In St. Kitts. But in Nevis, like I said, it might have been suppressed by a lot of factors. COVID.
In Nevis?
Well, we still have COVID around here.
Okay.
So, and other factors that caused people not to be fully energized and engaged. But the participation was good enough to give the CCM all 3 seats.
Again.
Unfortunately, the other party had been vanquished. And as a result, it's going to take them some time to get to the point to be electable. I repeat, it's going to take them some time to get to the point to be electable. I was at a particular place this afternoon, and someone who was part of that organization told me that they kicked him out, and he's got a lot to offer, plenty to offer. But there are times that there are people who feel that they must be chief cook and bottle washer, and therefore they want to call all the shots. And consequently, when blank shots came out and couldn't get rid of the opponent, therefore the opponent still standing and they were vanquished. Now, those of us who follow the game of politics, we see certain things that should be put in place. Okay, let me bring an issue to the front, to the fore. There is an elected representative in St. Thomas's. In my view, that representative should have been given the opportunity to run in the federal. But that opportunity had not been given to that individual. Well, let me even call her name, Cleon Simmons. She was supposed to have been given the opportunity to run in the federal. But word reaching my desk told me that she had been denied the opportunity of running in the federal. You have one ace in the hole already, and you pull it back to put in 3 new pegs. None have been tried and tested. That
well,
is
I don't
a blatant
know. You know, sometimes these kind of politics sometimes have not all these kind of talks and rumors. They don't really have much foundation. You know.
Repeat that again, Larry.
I say sometimes these allegations as you said, talk reaching your desk. But in many cases, there doesn't really have much foundation. Basically, you're insinuating that there exists a rift within the NRP. I truly don't know about that. You know, a lot of people say things not just about the NRP, but also about the system that goes straight through my ears, because I believe at times a party is organized along certain lines, and they choose the candidate, and get on with it. Really, I don't know if there was a problem within the NRP and a bit of a rift between Dr. Daniel and Mrs. Stapleton. So sometimes we got to really seek factual evidence on these matters before we actually...
Well, you're pointing that out. I'm not sure if I subscribe to that notion that you're pointing.
But I personally, I'm telling you, I'm not aware of that. I have not heard that really.
Well,
you know, you're saying that she should have.
If you were leading the NRP.
Yeah. No.
If you were.
Yeah, but I say no. I say no because no, I would not have used her in the federal election.
That's a nation hole already.
Yeah, she's a local representative. I mean, she
50%
so you think she would have made a difference in terms of? Do you think she would have made a difference in terms of votes? I don't.
I don't want to give them any advice, to be honest. All right.
I don't think so at all. To be quite honest, I don't think so. Even though she's well like the other lady, you know. I mean, I don't really see her bringing home that seat in a federal election. Doing much better than, you know, the one who actually won.
Well, I would say that she didn't do badly.
No, she didn't do badly.
Okay, but the objective is to go
and win
to the summit and bring back the prize.
Yeah.
Failure to do that, you can conclude.
Yeah.
Now,
well,
let's look at the thing that they've been banding around.
Mm-hmm.
The same candidate cannot run in both elections. Now, in my view, that is political blindness.
Consequently, it can run itself into its own problem. Consequently.
All right.
I mean, theoretically, the idea to me, you know, I always feel like, you know, Nevis need undivided attention. I always feel that it's not necessary that the federal minister should be a local minister. Really, you know, I don't, you know, and of course, that policy in a little place like Nevis can run itself into its own problem, because I find that it's going to be difficult to find people who want to run, you know, so it might run into problems. So I don't really see much flesh on that bone, really, even though it's been spoken of a lot, you know. I think they have a constitution which they can change if they want.
They have to change it.
If they want, it's okay. I don't think that takes anything away from them, to be quite honest.
But the issue which they vigorously campaigned on in the beginning of the campaign was that the same candidate should not be offered to the people.
And that shaped their policy. Yeah. A policy that...
in your opinion, is that a good policy?
I don't see nothing. Well, the policy, as I said, is going to consume itself, because sooner or later you probably would not find the people to run in both elections and so forth, you know. But if we had a bigger pool, then put it that way, I think it's a good policy. Well, I don't see anything wrong with the policy. I said always that Nevis need undivided attention. You know, I mean, we had people in the last federal government, you know, and we are still, at the end of it, we are still demanding our fair share. We are still demanding a lot. We are still dissatisfied. Okay?
We don't control.
Nevis still had not really feel that big things was happening here in Nevis for us. You know, like what was happening in St. Kitts. The disparity kind of widened. Okay, so I don't see the absolute. You know, I think the ministers them should stay home. Make Nevis work. Make Nevis happen. You know, if we got a federal minister, that's okay. But I don't see a big problem with that. I find at times that the engagement with St. Kitts, the obligations in St. Kitts, like for instance the agriculture minister, you know, I cannot say in detail how that did play out for both islands, okay? But it's sufficient in Nevis to concentrate on the creativity of our very particular ways and means in agriculture. It might be different in St. Kitts, you know, and therefore the attention that is needed in Nevis is not forthcoming. I argue that all the time. Even for the Honorable Mark Bradley, I question a lot back then. I mean, what hat Mark would actually wear when he goes away? If he wears the hat of the federal office he holds as foreign minister, or the prime minister, or the premier of Nevis. I don't know which one would yield the best for Nevis. But I do ask myself that question. Whatever hat he wears, okay, whatever hat he wears, I would like it to bear fruits for Nevis.
It does. But I'm saying to you, you can...
More fruits then. Yeah.
You can multitask.
I know we can multitask. I know
And
we
he
can
does
multitask.
multitask.
I know that. I know that. I know that. But Nevis
They're
need
all
undivided
multitask.
attention. You know?
They all multitask.
I know. I know they can. I know they can.
When you're in the position doing clerical work, it's not.
We want to feel the
laborious.
impact. We want to feel the impact. To have it
But you-
existing, and we have not been feeling much impact over here, Mr. Stanley. You've told me a minute ago that when the fair share is realized, there is so much little things we need to do. There's so much little.
So many things.
that we need to finish.
Everything is hinged on to
So
money.
things are, in a sense, delayed. Nevis have not been feeling the impact. We need to feel it.
This is Thought That Get Results. Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Library. Your phone calls when we come back on 1-869-469-1616 and 1700. Be back after these.
Builders Paradise is offering a large variety of floor and wall tiles at very competitive prices. Builders Paradise has over 2 million pieces in stock, lots of different styles to choose from. Whether you're renovating or tiling a new house, Builders Paradise has what you need. Wow! Oh, and remember, we're open all day Saturday to serve you better. This is something that you can't refuse. Visit Builders Paradise today at the C.A. Paul Southwell Industrial Site in St. Kitts or call them at 466-4938.
With all the power from the tower, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, VON Radio, from the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Back on this episode of Thought That Get Results with Edric W. Stanley, Conrad Nye Library. Your phone calls now on 1-869-469-1616 and or 1700. But before we go any further, I'd like to say a very pleasant good evening to Ted Hobson. Where are you, Ted? Hoping everything that is going okay. Special good evening to Dr. Patricia Bartlett, and congratulations on your run. You didn't win, but you know, folks felt that you made a good showing. So also the Honorable Spencer Brand, a special good evening to you as well. As I mentioned, we can take your calls now on 1-869-469-1616 1700. I also want to mention a couple of things, but let me first go to the lines. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Webbo. Good evening to Mr. Steiner. Good evening to Naya. Gentlemen, I see you're going at it and you have your own opinion and you're trying to support it. But here's another view. We got a brand new Prime Minister. He's young, he's energetic, he's got ideas, he's implemented some of them already, not bad. Why don't we just give him a chance? Why don't we just give him a chance rather than one person preaching doom and gloom, the other person preaching something else? You know, it's like, since this election, since the conclusion of this election, I've heard different opinions. And one side is saying the other one lose when they win when they win all 3 seats. The other side is trying to see what they could do to mend bridges and all that. The Prime Minister said he's trying to mend bridges. Why don't we give him a chance, as we like to say, give him a clean slate and see what he does with it, and then we have something to go by. I still think there's room for reasoning. Negotiations and all that. I mean, the Nevis Island administration, the Nevis people have spoken clearly. As far as I'm concerned, they want the system in office, and that's what they in Church Street, and that's what they've done. Whether they're on the opposition benches, they'll have to do the best they can, because as it is right now, the losing party is touting victory, and they are going to go to negotiate for Nevis. I don't know how that's going to work out. Maybe you gentlemen, you learned gentlemen, could give you some advice on that. Thank you.
All
right, thank you very
Before the
much.
caller goes, there were three losing parties. Three losing parties. PAM, the PLP.
Mr. Stanley, let me just take this. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Herbert, and to everyone else.
Good evening.
Mr. Herbert, somewhere in 2015, the Labour Party passed a law to move non-established workers to be pensionable. Just recently, sometime this year, the Honourable Mark Brantley made an announcement about it, said that he was voting on the federal government to give a path forward. But that was kind of confusing because he was part of the government. So it took 7 years for them to move this thing forward. The unestablished workers have been working 7 years. Politicians have been boasting and getting elected about hard work of non-established workers. But to move something to make them pensionable, it took these hard-working honourable men 7 years to move this thing forward, and that hasn't been moved. This guy said in September. So we still have to fight to live, to get a benefit that you have worked for. Politicians go to think it and go 7 years and get a full pension, full salary pension after 7 years. But workers have to work half their life and get nothing. And then you can tell me that these people working hard for Nevis? In 2014, 2013, we had the motion of no confidence.
Caller, before you go on to another area,
Yes.
let me get something clear. You said the law was passed in 2015?
Yes.
You're certain about that? It was gazetted as well?
Yes, because workers...
No, work with me. You're certain that the law was passed and it was gazetted?
Yes, because
And
Mr. Herbert...
work with me. Hello.
Okay, go ahead.
You noticed that I allowed you to exhaust everything you had on it, and then you were going on to something else, and that's when I'm asking for clarification.
Yes.
Okay, so just work with me, right?
Yes.
Okay, so all I want to know is if you're certain that the law was passed and it was gazetted and nothing was done concerning it. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Why I'm so certain, Mr. Herbert? We had a meeting. The government, the Honourable Martin Brantley announced meeting. All non-established workers been having meetings at a building close to Upso. Many many workers. I've had my say. We had the permanent secretary and other first persons who is on a board, a select committee, who came to tell us how this pension thing is going to work, Mr. Herbert. Well, you know what I did? I recorded it.
Okay. All right. So right. So okay. All right. So you could. I just wanted to be sure that the law was passed,
yes,
and it was passed work with me in the
yes.
Federal Assembly.
Yes, because one of the things I'm looking at is to see if the government pass a new regulation in Nevis.
No, it was passed in the Federal Assembly.
Yes.
For St. Kitts and Nevis.
Yes.
And it was passed in the Federal Assembly, and that the Nevis Island administration will pay those workers, and the federal government, so to speak, will pay the workers in St. Kitts.
Yes, because that is what they are saying to us, that we are by September we will be moved over the auxiliary workers. That would be the title, so that we will now become pensionable, and we won't be losing all of our benefits because of some who have served for longer.
Right, but the question I asked you, though, I get what you said, but the question I would ask you, if the law was passed in the Federal Assembly, and it stated that the Nevis Island administration must pay the non-established workers in Nevis, and the federal government will pay those in St. Kitts.
Well, from the discussion we have, is we have been told even where we could apply.
No, so the question I ask you, the answer is yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, you go.
Let me continue, sir?
Yeah, continue with the next point.
Yes, like I was saying, in 2013 and 14, Honorable Mark Brantley brought a gentleman here, Mr. Nightingale. That's to do with the 1 square mile of Nevis that was sold to Newfound, to look into that project again. This is 2022. Just count the years. And nothing. So all the time he was fighting against the boundaries moving, fighting for a vote of no confidence around the same time, 2013, 2014, and discussing about this hotel in Nevis. Look at what has happened now. All that fussing and fighting, Labour got into government in 1995. By 1998, the Honourable Vance and wanted secession. The Honourable Daisy Douglas have never been given a fair chance to govern the Federation. Look at even when he was in opposition. And now we start the fighting. We enter a new election and a fight. Nevis now going to have 2 elections in less than 6 months. And this is progress after over 5
Colin, let me ask you a question. You just made some points in reference to Mr. Brantley. You ever call him on his show to challenge him with those points that you make?
But Mr. Herbert, I used to call, right? And what I end up had to do is get many SIM cards, many chips, so I could change the number.
What does that mean?
Because the call will just disconnect.
Well, meaning what?
So let me tell you, Mr. Herbert, I haven't called.
No, wait. That thing what you just said, the call will just connect. What does that mean?
Disconnect from the recognize who it is.
That is not true.
Mr. Herbert,
listen, hello. I'm going to let you finish. That is not true. Because Mr. Brantley does not operate the technical operations when he's on. Wait, let me finish. I'm going to let you finish. Our technical people are the ones who operate it. So, do not come with that. That is not nice for you to say. Go ahead. Yes.
Mr. Herbert.
Yes.
Mr. Herbert. Me and Mr. Brantley, we cool.
No. Listen. I wanted to address the part where you accuse. Let me finish.
Yes.
Where you're accusing us of doing it, and that is what you're doing, and you must not do it.
Mr. Herbert, I haven't called Mr. Brantley's show in over 7 years.
Yeah, but I understand that. But the comment that you just made, right, is not nice. And you all must not do those kind of
So,
things.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
if I offend you, I'm sorry.
You didn't offend me. I think you're willful, right?
No,
Because
no,
you very well know that we don't do it.
Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
you know I've been calling into your program.
Yes, and we never drop your call.
Yeah, but Mr. Herbert, you don't know what happened to me.
No, I know what happened when we operate here, the technical operations and my staff. So to make allegations that you call and the thing drop out, it gives people a bad impression.
Look, you see, one thing I always try to impress upon people is that I try to be honest with myself. And that for me count a million. Once I'm honest with myself, other people impression of me doesn't weigh much. And that is what I'm trying to get across to people. That look at it. In Nevis, people.
But you're trying to be honest with yourself, but you're going to give people the impression that you call here and people recognize your number and drop the call. And I'm telling the public that that is not true.
No, but Mr. Herbert, is what if it happened to me?
But it didn't happen to you here. I'm telling you that. If you want to give people the impression and Mr. Brantley don't want to take your call, use another thing. But to say that you call, I'm telling you how we operate here.
You know what are the things?
You know something? Let's leave that because we're not going to get any further with work with me. Your position is that you call here when Mr. Brantley is on and your calls are dropped. I'm telling you that is not true. So let's leave that. If you'd like to go on to another point,
yes,
go ahead.
I would like you. You see, that's the thing, right? I was hoping it wouldn't have gotten to me and stayed on the representative.
No, but the truth is that when you bring that kind of thing, I'll defend it. Because you see what happened? People go say that on the street and stuff like that. But when you come here, get bold and say it here, I'm defending it.
Yes, and I appreciate it, but I'm only telling you. You defend your truth. I'm defending the facts.
So you're going to insist that you call here and we drop your call?
No, I'm not saying you.
But I'm telling you how it operates. We are the ones who operate the technical aspect of it.
Okay.
And unless we think that based on what you're saying is putting us in legal jeopardy, we'll let you speak. And you've been calling for years and you know that.
Mr. Herbert, like I said, let's leave it there. And wait.
Yeah, but I wanted you to know that I don't appreciate you giving that. I mean, if you want to say something negative about Mr. Brandy, that's fine, but you don't try to bring that in to give people the impression that we do that.
No, but I'm not saying you do that, sir. I'm just saying
okay, why don't we do this? Let's take a next call, and you can call back with the other topic.
Okay.
Okay, right. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yeah, good evening, Webber. Good evening, Stanley. Good evening, the Maya.
Good evening, sir.
Webber, that guy there is so right. Listen, that guy that was calling on Mark Brantley show. I listen to mostly all of Mark Brantley show. The same guy that was calling, right? I am a non-established worker too. I work for the government. Since Unity instruct, right? Listen, we always fighting for this pension thing. I know people work with for 20 years with my department where I used to work, and they went home and they don't get nothing. They were fighting for it all the time, right? Mark, every time Mark come on the job, because Mark was my boss, when Mark come on the job, we talk about it. He say he had tried to work it out with the Prime Minister and think it's and all of those things. Well, what is this? People is something else, you know. I don't know how this man does try to help people, right? It's something else. You know, Anaya, you said something tonight that is not really good. You said that the think it's people vote against Nevis people fair share. No. That's not happening now. The way you say it right now, you say it like the Stinkage people do not like Nevis people and
No, please. If I did, emit that impression, I want to take it back. Because no, not at all. I wasn't saying Stinkage people don't like Nevis people. I'm telling you that the idea of fair share did not work across the Narrows. Because the public did not vote for the party that was promulgating and defending the fair share over there. And that to me send a message that the electorate, in a general sense, the electorate was not biting that bait.
Well, the fair share no work from the beginning. That's where everybody should work out, because if Timothy Harris did keep his promise, we would not be in these problems like I was being. Well, we're not in a problem now, I don't know, right? And you say you don't listen to Dr. Joe, right? I listen to Dr. Joe too. Yeah, I hope you hear what Dr. Joe said.
Yes, go ahead.
Dr. Joe said that he can put this. He said the Navy is a card, right? I hear him with my own mouth.
Okay.
He said you can put the Navy as a card. They can take it to Parliament, and they're going to debate over it. And he said you can put it in Constitution. Well, not really everything, but with the CBI money and all those things. He even said like this: do not let us put the CBI money and tourism at the head of our table. Let me try to work on something else for investment.
Good.
Because if the tourism fall down, that means if the CBI fall down, that means so don't let us focus on just them. Just let us focus on how to invest, like investors and more money people come in and so to make money and so, which I think is good. And you must remember again, the Labour Party that win here now, that's a new Labour. Only Dougie won in there. The Dougie and Congress, but Congress in lose already. But only Dougie in there as a whole thing. This is new people, young new people. So as the caller said first, give them a chance.
Well, of course.
Right? Give them a chance and then listen. Opposition, there are 3 parties in the opposition. Never mind, Nevis have three representatives in the opposition. Nevis is not the head of the opposition. So all of them sit down in the opposition and they got to say. And it's not to say that if Dr. Drew says something that Mark Brantley do not agree with. Don't think Mark Brantley is a man that going to suck up anything because you look for he and Dr. Drew to be good friends. No, Mark Brantley not like that. This man is fair and straight.
Okay.
Anyway, you all have a good night. I continue listening.
All right, thank you. Yes. Edric, I believe you wanted to say something. You were finishing up something.
Well, all I'm trying to tell now is that we have to understand that there were 3 parties. 3 of them lost. And based on how they campaign, we have to give those who won the assent vote, and those who lost, they lost based on, they went down at their own peril. So they have to eventually figure out what a good message is and how that message could resonate with the people in order to be successful at the polls. Now, if for whatever reason they are not successful, their message wasn't resonating with the people, and as a result they failed perilously. Now, on another matter, the AG, which is Mr. Wilkin, Charles Wilkin, I didn't know that.
The AG is not Mr. Charles Wilkin.
Okay, maybe I got the information via the electronic system. Well, who is the AG? Webbo. Maybe I heard wrongly, and I would apologize for giving him the title that he doesn't deserve, giving him a title that he doesn't deserve.
No, but a caller earlier, and well, thanks to the last caller, I think he was very much a part of the conversation we were having.
Now let me just accommodate this caller and I'll come back to you. Thank you for holding. Could you go ahead?
Yeah, Webbo, Mr. Stanley, let me just correct Mr. Stanley. The AG is the son of Charles Wilkins.
Okay, all right.
I think his name is Gus or something.
Okay, I heard of Wilkins.
Yeah, it's his son.
Okay,
His
good.
father.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you, caller. When you hear something, at least you have to trust and verify. And knowing the father, where he actually attained in terms of his field, I assumed. Anyhow, thank you, caller. I'll leave it there, Webbo.
Yes, I was saying that one of the callers, the one before that last one, was very much a part of the conversation we were having, Mr. Stanley, and I think he got it right when I was trying to ask you about the opposition and the functionalism of the opposition. But one caller before that said that one of us here spreading doom and gloom or something like that. But I don't think so at all. I think both of us are on the same path. We recognize that it's the new Prime Minister. A lot of people say it's the new Labour. I feel it's Labour. You know, I'm not sure if it's the new Labour. I feel it's Labour. But it's a new Prime Minister, and sure, I think we should approach him with, you know, all respect and decency, and expect, you know, we can have a good conversation about the issues that really affects us. You know, I find it's a great opportunity to start afresh and to build a good relationship. You know, he have expressed that kind of thing. That, as I say, he expressed that humane aspect quite quite early to me. You know, and so. It's a great chance. It's a good chance to get along. But I just question the fact that Mark and the others would be in the opposition, how rigid and firm and steel bent they would be on issues, knowing that, again, we are trying to forge a new and beneficial relationship with the existing government.
Let me ask you this question, which might help you in your pondering. You ever debated with anybody who you get along with?
Yes, yes.
And you ever debated vigorously with them?
Oh, yes.
And then you debate vigorously on a particular issue or topic?
Yeah.
And then you still have a drink or get along with them thereafter?
Yes.
That helps you in your pondering?
It helps me in my pondering.
Okay.
And I wish things do work that way around us here in politics, honestly. But it doesn't in most cases, and that's the part I would like to see, because the islands are too small. The islands are too small. We are depending on each other, you know, and I don't see why the opposition here in Nevis, I don't see why, I mean, they should really get down into these personal attacks that I hear sometimes, you know, with people who have, you know, running politics. And Nevis is too small for that, really. They can debate vigorously on matters affecting Nevis. And at times, if they want to come together for the benefit of that should be an easy thing to do. But when it all gone wrong, when you go down the road of that personal attack, it's a very difficult thing to achieve. And the islands suffer because of that.
Quite so.
Yes, I mean, good debate is what I like to hear.
Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air. Good evening, you're on the air. Okay. Caller, you can please try and call back. I want to encourage you, once you call, to listen to the phone. If you listen to the computer or the radio, whatever it is, we might have some issues. Thank you for holding. Could you go ahead? Okay. Hope that's not, this is a light moment. I hope that's not the same fellow who would now say that his call get dropped. Because life is funny. Okay, I wanted also to make the point, or mention the point. Let's try this caller. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good night, Webbo. How are you?
All right.
Good night, Mr. Stanley and Naya.
Good night.
Yes, sir.
And Naya, I mean, the call to call ago, you are correct. If I did get in before, I would have said the same thing. The impression I get from you, I've been listening from the beginning.
Okay.
The impression I get from you is that the people who vote in Labour because they don't want to give money with fair share. That's the impression I get, eh? And I must
Okay.
tell you, and the same of Dr. Joe, and the fifth, he said that government how he's going to try and solve the matter between St. Kitts and Nevis. And I guess you're referring to the same fair share. Plus, Mr. Brantley said it over and over. Fair share is not about money alone. We speak about the peace program in Nevis. We speak about the STEP program in Nevis. The amount of people over there and it compare to the thousands of people down here. So it's just not about money alone.
Okay.
It's around the whole circle then, in different areas. And Mr. Stanley, I guess he was correct. Because okay, don't get worried about it. All of us is one. And it doesn't matter if yes, it's a new government, administration, just let it go smooth across the board. Things like that, the matter could be solved. But it's left to be seen in the future. Anyway, thank you for taking me forward.
All right, thank you. Yes, I wanted to mention one of the first things that Mr. Drew, Dr. Drew did, and in reference to the travel, the COVID protocols and so on, and he did made a statement that he had basically revoked the health and travel protocols where COVID-19 is concerned. Now, a part of it has not been clear, and a lot of people have been trying to get it cleared up. We made some efforts to get to the health authorities to find out exactly what extent it goes. I know the travel section, that is clear, but in terms of the protocols that are done on the island, so to speak. Well, I'll finish up, but let me take this. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, you're on the air. Okay, well, we're not seemingly getting that. Good evening, you're on the air? Okay. So I was saying that you have persons who are asking, does that mean drop the mask? Does that mean, drop the testing, etc., etc., etc.? And I'm hoping that in due course, the health authorities will come and explain that aspect of it. As I said, we did, our news department did try and see whether or not we can get an explanation to help, because as we learned from the COVID over the past 2 years, messaging is very important. And sometimes if you get it wrong at the beginning, it's very difficult to pull back. So I just wanted to make that point, so the health authorities or whatever, maybe if you can help with, clearing that up. You may figure, sometimes you figure we had put an unambiguous statement or whatever out, but sometimes everybody doesn't get it. Okay. Naya, I think I interrupted you.
Not really, Webbo. I did conclude.
Okay, well, let me go back to the lines. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, on the air. Okay, that's not working out either. Again, like I said, let's hope he's not that fellow who just wanted to make that point. If you're calling, as I said, we encourage you to listen to the telephone, because I know sometimes people call and they listen to the radio and they wouldn't hear the phone being answered and stuff like that. So please, let me try one more time. Good evening, thank you. Good evening, thank you for holding. Okay. Right. So I just wanted to make that particular point. Anybody else wanted at this point?
Well, let me just make one observation about the overseas participation we have had. Because I had quite a few friends who came in and they enjoyed themselves not only for Culturama, but also listened to the tail end of the campaign, and they were relatively pleased with what they've heard. But more so, those who came to Nevis and saw the massive transformation, I told them, don't let anybody fool you. Go to the length and breadth of the island and you will see what the Nevis Island administration is doing, and don't let anybody tell you or attempt to fool you or mislead you. And most of them did. I got some feedback. Some say they're even sorry they left here because Nevis looks better than where they are. And that is, of course, a plus for the Nevis Island administration regarding the transformation program that is now in effect, and therefore it must continue, has to continue, because...
So when you say that they must not listen to anybody telling them, do you mean including you?
No.
Okay, so you can tell them, but they mustn't listen to anybody else. They must see for themselves.
Additionally, when they listen to me...
Good evening. I'll come back to you. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, gentlemen and Mr. Herbert.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wouldn't mind being corrected, but sometime ago, since I heard the premier, someone said that they're not getting any additional persons on the top-up and CCC adding all the time. Why would they want more people on the top-up and they're taking off? Good evening.
Caller, hello?
Please.
Hello?
Yeah, I don't know if you got
No, did not get
okay,
it.
the panel didn't get your statement or the tail end of your question. Could you go over it?
Okay. I'm saying that I think I heard that some comment about the top. Not enough persons on it in music. And they have been asking for additional persons to be added. Why would they need additional persons to be added and they are taken off from up here? People have been taken off the top for political reasons. Good night, gentlemen.
Okay. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. I'm just getting a chance to speak, so we're here to help each other, so I'm just calling with reference to the call that was made before to help Mr. Stanley with the name of the Attorney General, and the Attorney General's name is Garth Wilkins. Garth Wilkins. Okay, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Okay, so it was Mr. Stanley who was saying something, right?
Yeah, but just the caller said something of some interest. But
now you go to the microphone.
yeah, the caller said something of some interest. She said that people are being taken off the PEP or the PAP, whatever, for political reasons. So she's asking, why do we need more people on the PAP if people are taken off for political reasons? I'm not aware of that. I'm not sure if that facts. And for political reasons, I know that office is run by the federal government. So personally, I'm not aware of that. What I'm aware of, that long time ago, they have stopped taking people on the PEP or the STEP, whatever it is, a long time ago. But it continued in St. Kitts, and probably still is, up to the election, especially before the election, and so that is something we speak about because we realize it is an unequitable distribution of federal resource. Nevis people have been prevented from signing up to the PEP long time ago, years gone by, and it still happens in St. Kitts. So that's the issue, really.
Well, it's interesting with the lady who called and said that people are taking off for political reasons from the poverty alleviation program.
Let me just get this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening, Mr. Herbert. Me again. Naya and Mr. Stanley, that lady who made the statement, it's a perfect and it's true because it is me. It was done to me. On that line. Okay.
I want to know the particulars about the PAP, the Poverty Alleviation Program, with regard to eligibility. And it is only fair, right, and proper for the person who has been affected for us to be given the evidence. Trust, but verify. That is a slogan that was coined by Ronald Reagan, and it makes a lot of sense. You have to trust what people tell you, but you also have to be able to verify it. So I'm saying I do not know all the particulars or the dynamics of the program. Some programs have certain eligibility requirements, and if you, for whatever reason, give information as part of the requirement, and the information can be proven that it is false, then that might be a reason. But at the same time, the person who has been affected could put their own category or reasoning as to why they were affected.
Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Hi, good evening, Webbo. I'm listening to this discussion, and I'm just calling to find out if the panelists are aware that Nevis is more indebted now than at any previous time in its history. And you have to take that into context, because the current premier has gotten more money from the federal purse than any previous premier of Nevis. So it speaks the poor management of the funds of Nevis. And then, on top of that, my understanding is that the debt is not being serviced properly. And so, whereas Mr. Stanley is talking about going around looking at what it does and so forth, one has to put in the context of why not money is being spent.
Caller, I don't know if you're moving and talking, but you're going in and out, so it's difficult to comprehend what you're saying.
Okay, problem. I'm just saying that I'm wondering if what Mr. Stanley is saying is considered in light of and in the context that Nevis is more indebted now than at any other time in its history, and that the debt is not being serviced properly. Also, I mean, you know, there's a talk that everyone has now that Nevis owes everybody and not paying their debt, right? So I want what he's saying be said in the context that the money is not being spent properly, because it doesn't make any sense to build infrastructure here, there, and everywhere, and at the same time you're running up the debt and you're not servicing the debt. So I just wanted to interject that.
Caller, before you go, I know that you have addressed certain things to Mr. Stanley, but for my own edification, I could ask you a couple of questions?
Certainly.
You said that Mr. Brantley, his administration, got more monies than any other from federal purse than any other administration?
Any other previous Nevis Island administration.
Okay. And you will find that commendable or not?
Well, it's commendable.
Okay.
It's commendable. Nothing is off with it.
Right. So you're giving credit for that. That is commendable. You also said that you understand or you heard that the debt is not being serviced properly?
Yes.
Okay. And you heard that from who?
So
you got that, work with me. You got that like from official statistics or anything? Or
official statistics.
Right.
Which you can confirm that.
Yeah. So what is the source?
No, you can confirm it.
No.
I am speaking, you can confirm.
Work with me.
I'm working with you, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, but I'm asking.
You can confirm. You're the one who are on the program. Somebody says something, you do your research.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to disclose my source.
You don't have to disclose your source?
No.
Okay. All right, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, okay then, sure.
Okay. The other thing that I think I wanted to note, I made another thing, but Mr. Stanley, I think I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Well,
or was it Naya?
Not really.
My thing is that I was saying the person who said that they've been affected, I stated you have to trust, but also you must verify. And I would be more or less reiterating or repeating myself in terms of eligibility. Now, I think there is a barometer by which it is measured with reference to a certain threshold of income. And I do not know how much this person makes from the place of employment, or whether or not they are unemployed or underemployed, and hence there is no disclosure with reference to the charge that it is political in terms of party support, as the case might be. So my thing is, again, trust but verify, and if the person is in fact unemployed, underemployed, or is employed at an establishment, they can disclose, as the person identified herself, seemingly female, as to where they're working, how much they're getting, and we can do the math to determine whether or not the allegation of political bias.
Good evening. Mr. Stanley, let me take this. Good evening. Thank you for holding.
Good evening. Mr. Stanley, the person is a single mother with two school-age children and infants.
You know, caller, see what happens. See what happens, right? It's awfully difficult to solve those sort of problems when somebody just calls in and they give a certain part of the information. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I understand sometimes a person wants to say something, but if a person is trying to help, they probably want to know certain information, and if the person doesn't want to reveal the information, I don't know how much further we can go on this forum with it. You get what I'm saying, caller? Well, okay, all right. Yeah, but let me just make a general comment. You see, sometimes I get it that a person may have a particular issue. And one of the first things you have to appreciate that if you're going to bring an issue to a forum such as this is tagged as stuff that is of public interest or concern. And if you have a private matter which you do not want the public really to get into, it is not, you know, it's kind of difficult to sort it out in the public forum. If you put it in a public forum, then it changes the whole aspect of it. So I want people to really understand that it's not that a person may not care about your particular issue, but understand it is of matters that are of public interest or concern, and that's what we deal with in this forum. Things that are private matters and so on and so forth, we deal with off air. And what you want to do also is to be fair to everybody. You know, somebody calls and make accusations, somebody did me this and so on and so forth. You know, those sort of things, sometimes we don't encourage them. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Yes, Mr. Herbert, good evening, sir. Here, I know of somebody that was on the PAP program, let me say a family, and they were getting the PAP because, you know, the rules of the PAP is that your money has to be 1,000 and below. When they start getting the PAP, was 2 persons in the house were employed, and their money was below the 3,000 mark. Eventually, months passed, I think nearly a year, and then two additional persons was employed. And then I think apparently the PAP office, you know, did some investigation, and the person that was getting the PAP, that took, and it's a female, that took the young lady off the PAP because they went over the 3,000 mark. And that same young lady, who I'm referring to, went about saying that, because of political reasons, she was taken off the PAP. So these, I started to say, some of these things, we have to take some of these things into consideration. So I don't know if, you guys understand, I'm sure you guys understand what I'm getting at.
But not the specific case, but I understand the point you're making.
Yeah, I'm not referring to the
work with me. I understand from a general standpoint, because as I said, it's difficult to deal and make conclusions on one side of a story or one side of information, because you just made, in my mind, a good point.
Right.
You said you know of a particular case. I don't know, and I'm not saying it's related to the person who called.
No.
But what you also said, that there are certain criteria.
Right.
And then when the person did not meet the criteria of the persons, then certain things were done.
Right.
You see, so you have those instances. So
yeah,
I got you.
Let me put that in. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, but she is obviously complaining about political discrimination, but to look at the whole idea of political discrimination, which is a live wire, in our society. And as we're setting out on this new path, really, it's probably something we should not move from the forefront of our mind, because it doesn't work well in these little islands either. You know, it does happen, I must say, political discrimination. I mean, I probably has been a victim of it in so much ways that I don't even know it exists as it relates to me anymore. But political victimization in these little small communities, it's really utilizing a percentage of our human resource, to be quite honest. And I believe that we should, in every way, try and you know, especially when people's lives is going to be so severely impacted, you know, single parents, and I'm not saying what, you know, the callers are saying, you know, because of course there are two sides to a stories, as the second caller, or the more recent caller, pointed out, you know. I mean, people will say things and be quiet about the things that really matters in the whole issue. And so it's difficult to really come to a conclusion about that. But this political victimization, which have really haunted Nevis, from since I have become an adult and been around politics and so forth, it's really it's something we should really look at in a very serious way and try to eliminate that.
Yeah, but a lot of times you hear that when you hear both sides of the story too, as well, because sometimes you would hear it not just in Nevis and St. Kitts and other places, because sometimes people use it to get you know, either sympathy or whatever and so on. And then you hear somebody say they were undermining a particular government, so they move them and so on and so forth. So a lot of that, and you hardly ever hear both sides of a story. I remember, I'm sure you all remember, a gentleman called here, and he was talking about certain things, and they did this. And when I asked him, well, where's the letter? And where is this and so on, he closed down the case. Because what happens a lot is that people come with a particular side of a story. Nobody challenges them, nobody asks them any question, and they take advantage of that and peddle these things. And, you know, early tonight, by the way, the gentleman who called is a friend of mine, and he, you know, made an allegation there, and I called him out and tell him that's not nice, and he and I will talk about it. But maybe he was trying to make somebody look bad by saying something, and which was not true. And if I did not, for instance, stop him and intervene, some people might think it's true. You see, so a lot of those kind of things, and you have to have the courage to stand up and tell people, no, that's not right, that's not true. And other than that, it goes along and then it breeds certain things in the society. And then we start to complain the kind of society we have. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Mr. Herbert?
Yes.
I am not looking for sympathy because I have a huge family, lots of siblings.
Caller, before you listen to me. Caller, listen, before you go any further, I'll let you finish. I did not say that any one particular person is looking in a sympathy, right? And I did not refer to any specific case. I said we have a lot of instances where people would say things, and this all speak in general. And you see, and that is another problem we have in this society. You make certain general comment, and when preachers preach too, people sit down and say, well, he's talking about me. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, but I was the person who called. And someone said maybe the person is looking sympathy.
No, the person who made that comment, I would assure you, were not referring to your specific case. Okay?
And I wasn't making that amount of money. My salary was $1,500. I am a single mother living alone with 2 school-age children and an infant, as I told you before. Okay, good evening.
Okay, all right, thank you. Caller, you know, again, as I said, I understand the point that you're making, but I'm not one who would just say, well, this person said that this person did them that and they're wrong, right? I feel your pain, and I'm saying that if an injustice was done to you, obviously it's not fair, right? But I don't know about the others, but I can't really comment. As we did in the first time you called, we listened and we gave you the opportunity to say what you had to say. Good evening, thank you for holding. Good evening, thank you for holding. Okay, I'm very sorry. Please call back. Yeah, so that's what you get sometimes when you just give half of something, you know what I'm saying, and then when you probe to try to get to the other. No. Good evening, thank you for holding.
Good night, Webbo. Good night, Tyler, and good night, Naya.
Good night, sir.
Good night.
Yeah, I'm here listening to the program. Now, the lady was calling and talk about the pack. They take off the pack because of political reasons. I believe some of these things will happen. Because sometimes the minister or whosoever say nothing. But you got people spitefully. Because they might talk or say something or really. They might try to victimize you or do you want or do all kind of manner thing. The lady could be right. Because it happens to a lot of people down here because of who something like you be. Who your family is and all these things. Or because you're politically motivated at one party. And all these things happen all the time. So, I believe that maybe something there is an issue. Because some political reason they take off the pack. And I'm explaining again, right? You can become an attack, right? Maybe because 5-6 children, especially no father to decide or whatever. You know, a home, a mother with 5 or 6 children. And you can be pack. Maybe working for 360 something. Social Security and that to come out of that. You know, these people eligible to be on the top. But you see, as I tell you, you got some people working under these ministers them, doing that nonsense. And it continue all the time, and I hope this new administration will go in. I hope some of these things cut out. And ministers must look into the work, because when people complain about these things, they should get results. But sometimes no result at all, because of political reasons. All right then.
So, it's good to hear from you. So you say sometimes it actually... Oh, okay, well, he's gone. But it's good to hear from you.
Point taken.
Yes.
Point taken.
You know, the other thing with people, I use the terminology, taking advantage of people. Sometimes you don't even know who to complain to. Because a lot of the times, and the caller made a reference that sometimes it's people who may not be the politician. But I have a rule of thumb that if you have an organization and certain things are going on there, in America they said you either know or you ought to have known. And if you know, or you ought to have known and you're doing nothing about it, as the head, you should get the responsibility, right, Edward?
Quite so.
That's why you're the head.
Quite so.
So if you have rampant behavior like that across the PAP program or anywhere, and the persons who are at the head must hear, and if nothing is done, what does that suggest?
You condone it. The person who is at the head condones what the victim is experiencing. So the person who is at the head should be lazily focused to get feedback when programs like these are initiated, and those who are on these programs, if they're not treated right, they complain. You ultimately will hear something from some one of them. But if you bury your head in the sand and don't want to take responsibility, then you shouldn't even be there. As an elected leader, you're supposed to be fully aware with what's happening within your constituency, even within the nation. And wherever you can help, you are elected to serve. And if someone needs a helping hand here or there, as the case might be, you use government resources to help them legitimately, without fear or favor. Because ultimately, the resource or the resources that are available are made available by the country and its taxpayers. So, the person who is in charge, at the helm, at the apex, at the summit, supposed to understand. They're supposed to operate with their ears to the ground and to be able to get information and act on that information. So if people are taken off of a program and you are unaware, then you have to take the blame for the unawareness and ultimately the shame, and eventually lose your job.
Like if you don't know, then you ought to have known. Well, that's the basis of ministerial responsibility. But nothing's really happened when the blame is being placed wholly and solely on the minister.
That's it for leadership.
Yeah.
And whether ministerial or not. Good evening. You have a half a minute.
Okay, I'll give you just half a minute, you only 2 minutes. What's the name of the program? Talk That Get Result, right?
Yes, sir.
That's the name of the program.
That's what the evidence shows.
Okay, so tell the people that when you call in and they don't want the problem to solve, do not call in. All like the guy we call him Mark Brantley with or a lot of money and kind of thing here. The program is Talk That Get Result. So when they talk to you, when you question them, answer you, and then you go to do your research, and then that's what the program is all about. Talk That Get Result. Good night, Webber.
Thank you. That's the last word. This program repeats tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock following the VON News Minute. Join the Honorable Mark Brantley tomorrow evening at 8 o'clock for On Demand. Thank you all again for joining us. This is your voice in the community. You all have a good evening.
Views and opinions expressed on the preceding program were solely those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Nevis Broadcasting Company.